Bringing in now David Hawkings. He's senior editor at Roll Call. Hi, David.
How are you, Arthel?
I'm well, thank you. So if it gets down to voter turnout, which party benefits and which one takes a hit?
Well, it does seem from Gallup's fascinating new set of numbers that it's the Republicans are in a better position with a little bit more than 3 weeks to go than the Democrats are. Here's why. What Gallup asks is, are you paying a lot of attention to this election, and are you really motivated to go out and vote? And many more Republicans say yes to those questions than Democrats.
In fact, since you started that, hang on, let me pop the poll up on screen, and then I'm going to get your analysis of it, okay? So basically this Gallup poll from last week found that voters are less engaged in this year's midterm than they were in 2010, 2006, as said. And here's the breakdown. Only 33% responding said that they were giving at least some thought to the upcoming midterms, compared to 46% again in 2010 and 42% in 2006. And it's even more troubling, David, for Democrats. Republicans held a 12-point advantage when those paying some attention were broken down by party. So take it away, David.
So what that would suggest is that the Republicans they smell the victory, and so they're more motivated to get out there and vote to be a part of to be on the winning side. Now that doesn't always translate until to their actually going to the polls on November 4th and voting. Mitt Romney knows that as well as anybody else. There were plenty of polls 2 years ago that made it look as though Mitt Romney might actually win the popular vote on Election Day, but the president's side did a better job than the Republican side did on getting people to the polls. So this is all about, in the closing days, often in the last 72 hours of an election, which side actually makes good on getting its people to go to the polls, making sure that enthusiasm stays where it is right until the very end. So some of this, I guess what I'm trying to say is, what the Gallup shows now might not translate even 3 weeks from now, because when they say they're excited, that means they think they're going to win, so they think they're going to participate, and they might not in the end.
And meanwhile, you look at minorities, you look at single women, you look at the youth voter, which are typically the core for the Democratic base there. So then, if at this point, based on the polls we're analyzing, if that is the party that is going to be suffering from voter turnout as it stands now, what should the Democrats do in these next 3 weeks to get their base out there?
Gosh, I don't know. They are certainly hoping to energize their base at the very end with appeals, getting some of their favorite surrogates out there. We know that, for example, Hillary Clinton is going, I believe, to a dozen different states in the last 3 weeks to try and rally the base. She's concentrating in swing states and focused on women candidates to constituencies that would obviously be important to her if she runs in 2016. The president is staying away. The president is trying to raise money for the Democratic Party, but as you have noticed, he is not on the screen too much, stumping for many people because his popularity remains super low, so they really don't want the president. Very few candidates actually want to stand on the podium with the president at this time. So,
David, when you look at some of the states where you have those high-profile competitive races, do you think a voter turnout will be higher in those states?
It certainly should, because the wave of attention is enormous. Lots of stories on the local news, obviously tons and tons of advertising, tons of direct mail. The idea is that both sides are going to be working extremely hard to plump up the turnout in those states. And so it might be really low. We talked about 40% in the last couple of midterms. In some states where there are not competitive Senate races, or no Senate races at all, or no competitive House races, it could be down in the mid-20s. But in some of these really hot Senate races, CQ Roll Call now has 5 races that are totally up for grabs. We see the map a little bit differently than these guys do. Alaska, Colorado, Iowa, Kansas, and Louisiana are the ones that we think are totally deadlocked, with a little bit less of a deadlock North Carolina, Arkansas, New Hampshire, and Kentucky. But those 9 states, you've got to assume that the turnout's going to be up close to presidential levels, and that it's in both sides' interest to make it happen that way.
Oh, boy. I tell you what, and quickly, just touch on this for me shortly. Of course, we know the saying is all politics is local, but do you think the Ebola, the ISIS fight, just kind of general sense of chaos is going to affect voter turnout this midterm election?
I definitely think it could. That's definitely something that the Democrats are worried about, that this goes to the president's their argument that the president is not really running a competent government, that they can't get the basics right. That's one of the main arguments for, voting against the president, using this vote to cast a vote against Obama, elect more Republicans to Congress, and maybe the government will run more competently. Up in the air whether that will work.
David Hawkins, I know you'll be watching it, and we will be as well here at Fox News. Thank you so much.
Thank you.